The first shot shattered the silence of the desert. A single gunshot rolling across the empty plains like thunder from a dying storm. And in that echo-sharp hollow, haunting and outlaw named Colt Mercer realized he was no longer alone. The late 1800s had carved him into a man of few words and too many ghosts. He carried his past like a wound stitched into his soul, a scar that burned whenever he closed his eyes. So he kept moving, town to town, shadow to shadow, never staying long enough to be seen, never leaving soon enough to be forgotten. But fate caught him just outside a small desert town called Dustwater Reach, where the wind tasted of copper and old secrets. The sun was melting into the horizon, turning the sand gold and the sky a violent red when Colt rode in. His horse walked slowly through the dusty streets, hooves thudding softly as lanterns flickered to life one by one. Children were called indoors, doors shut, curtains trembled. People knew an outlaw when they saw one. Colt didn't blame them. He dismounted outside the saloon, his hat low, his shadow long on the ground, and that's when he saw her. She was standing by the wooden posts outside the stable, brushing a black mare whose coat shone like midnight water. The dying sun wrapped her in a soft firelight, turning her hair into streaks of copper, turning her eyes into shimmering secrets. One look at her, and something inside Colt shifted. Not pain, not fear. Something softer, unwanted, unfamiliar. She noticed him watching, and for a moment, neither moved. Her voice broke the silence, low, steady, but lined with caution. "You're hurt." Colt glanced at the blood on his sleeve. "It's nothing." She stepped closer. Her movements were gentle, careful, as if the world around her might break if she moved too fast. But there was strength hidden in the way she held herself, quiet bravery that Colt recognized instantly. "You should come inside," she said, "before someone else notices." "And you are?" He asked Lena Prescott. Her name felt like a secret whispered into the wind. Colt followed her inside, where lanterns swayed from the wooden beams and shadows clung to the corners like old memories. The saloon wasn't crowded, just a few locals playing cards, a bartender polishing glasses, and the soft hum of whiskey-soaked conversation. Lena led him to a back table and handed him a cloth. He pressed it to his wound, watching her as she moved. There was something fragile in her eyes, but something fierce beneath it, a war she was fighting alone. "Why help me?" he finally asked. She hesitated. "Because you looked like a man who's lost enough." He didn't know how to answer that. Not without telling her everything, and he couldn't. Not yet. As the night deepened, they talked in fragments. Small confessions, half-truths, moments that felt bigger than they seemed. Colt told her nothing of the bounty hunters on his trail, and Lena told him nothing of the fear that tightened her jaw whenever footsteps neared the saloon door. Their silence felt like an unspoken promise. Later, outside under the silver wash of moonlight, Colt found her standing alone, arms wrapped around herself, eyes lost on the horizon. "You're scared," he said quietly. She nodded. I've been running for days. From who? Her lips parted, then closed again. She wasn't ready. He didn't push. The desert wind swept between them, carrying the scent of sagebrush and storm. Come with me, Colt said, at least until morning. She looked at him, really looked as if weighing whether this outlaw with broken edges could offer her any kind of safety. Finally, she whispered, all right. They rode out to a small ridge overlooking the town. Colt lit a campfire. Lena sat closed, her knees pulled to her chest, her face glowing in the firelight. She watched the flames like they were telling her a story she didn't want to remember. Colt, she whispered, there's something you should know. He waited. My father was the sheriff of Red Valley. He was killed last week. They came for him. For our land. For something he wouldn't give them. Now they're after me. Colt's jaw clenched. What do they want? Lena's breath shook. A map. One my father hid. It shows the location of a silver vein worth more than any bank in the territory. Her voice trembled. Colt, they think I have it, and do you... She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Colt stared into the fire, the flames reflecting in his wounded eyes. He'd seen men kill for less. And he knew what it meant to carry a secret that could cost a life. Lena, he said calmly, you should have run farther. Before she could respond, the sound of distant hooves echoed across the plains. Her entire body stiffened. They found me, she whispered. Colt rose, hand on his gun. How many? 4, maybe 5. They're dangerous. Colt, you don't have to, but he cut her off with a look that said everything. He wasn't running anymore. Not tonight. Not with her beside him. The riders appeared through the dust, silhouettes against the moon, their leader dismounted, voice sharp as a blade. Hand over the girl, Mercer, and we'll let you walk away. Lena clutched Colt's arm. Please don't. But Colt stepped forward. Not happening. Gunfire split the night. The campfire roared. The desert echoed with fury. Colt fought like a man with nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. When the dust settled, the riders lay defeated, swallowed by the silence of the plains. Lena knelt beside Colt, tears shining in her eyes. You saved my life. He shook his head. You saved mine first. She touched his cheek, gentle, trembling, full of everything she had been afraid to say. What now? She whispered. Colt looked at the horizon where the first blush of dawn touched the sand. Now, he said softly, we stop running. They stood together as the sun rose, painting the desert gold to souls bound not by fate, but by choice. The outlaw and his lady, the wound and the healing, the shadow and the light. Some stories end in dust, but theirs began in hope. If you enjoyed this journey through the untamed Wild West, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more gripping tales from the edge of history. Comment below which moment moved you the most. Thanks for watching.